Now, consumers have resorted to shopping at informal retail shops for affordable prices in US dollars and guarantee of finding all products. The question has been, why is this the case now? In the following report, Tafara Sibochiwe follows the chain to find an explanation that has left formal retailers on the brink and consumers without a choice.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe recently devalued the ZiG from 14 to 25 against the United States dollar. This was part of the measures to stabilize the currency and correct the pricing in the market. It may be too early to gauge the full impact of those measures, but in the short term, a new challenge seems to have emerged.
At the moment, kutenga retail shops kurikuti durei. Ukaenda ku tax shop nema USD unotenga grocery rakawanda upfura unotenga urapinda mu supermarket. So at the end of the day, tinenge ndakutarisa kuti with my little income I have, where can I bargain? Obviously I will run to my tax shops, because if I go there I get more than what I get from the formal retail shops.
Consumers seem to prefer tax shops, saying they are cheaper and more fair in pricing.
With the current situation, inflation at 9, I think it's very wise. There's why goneka kuti wane ma salaries in US because they're stable.
Surprisingly, tax shops have not been running out of products, while the formal retail sector has limited products on the shelves.
We have to bear in mind that this sector, the informal sector, is unregulated for the most part. So they have very limited overheads, which makes their products way cheaper as compared to us.
Formal retailers say they have ceased to become competitive and are advocating for an even playing field.
But in the meantime, this is the challenge that us formal retailers are facing. We have ceased to become competitive in the market. And we have to bear in mind that there is an issue of the smuggling of goods that is affecting us within the market. They smuggled goods and counterfeit goods also. So these are the two issues that are also contributing to finding that some products may be way cheaper as compared to these.
Retailers are calling for a collective effort in order to salvage this situation.
Us as retailers, suppliers, and also banks, we feel like banks should also be involved in the crafting of policies that will be sustainable for the whole value chain. Because it starts from access to foreign currency on the supply side, where the problem is.
Indications are that manufacturers sell in US dollars to cover the gap of the much-needed foreign currency. However, since the devaluation, we may have turned the corner.
Since the devaluation, there seems to be no backlogs in the foreign currency application. Our hope is that the parallel market premium is going to be narrowed further, and that we will be able to sustain that stability over time, so that business activity moves back to the formal market.
So what could be done to ensure stability of doing business, particularly for the formal sector?
Once the parallel market premium starts to widen, instead of policing the formal sector, we actually need to cushion the formal sector from that premium by some provisions, or ideally the parallel market premium should not be allowed to widen.
It is fact that manufacturers must make a profit and be able to restock. And it is also equally important that they must supply retailers who are paying tax to government. These retailers also have a mandate to be fair and charge consumers using all currencies.
Against that background and the prevailing challenges, it is clear that there is need for more engagement among key stakeholders to find a long-lasting solution. Reporting for ZTN Prime, I am Tafara Sibochiwe in Harare.
Authorities say they are working on measures to correct the price disparities in formal retail shops.
Is the increased support of the formal manufacturing sector by the central bank, where they are now increasing the foreign currency that is dispersed through the banks under the willing seller system, mainly to support the purchase, acquisition of raw materials, which are then are supplying the formal sector in our economy.
Now, to try and break down the prevailing situation, we now cross over to ZTN Prime business correspondent Eben Mabunda. Eben, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, some retailers have claimed manufacturers prefer to trade in US dollar to help them in restocking. What should be the solution?
Good evening. Before I respond to that question, it's important to get into the lens of the manufacturers in this country. I will give an illustration of the dairy sector, where it is that the cost of producing a liter of milk in Zimbabwe is higher than in the region. The cost of producing a liter of milk in Zimbabwe is between 60 cents to 65 cents per liter. You compare that with the region, it hovers between 30 cents to 35 cents. So already the cost of production within that subsector is at least 90 to 100% more than the regional counterparts. And that same aggregate sort of applies to several other subsectors, where it is that the cost of production in Zimbabwe is 40 to 80% higher than in the region. So when manufacturers get to produce products for the domestic market, they are in it to make a profit. So it makes more sense for them at this particular point to ensure that they at least get their revenues in United States dollars and not in the domestic currency, because if they are to supply to retailers in Zimbabwe, they have a 3 to 4 weeks turnaround time, and given the market vagaries that we have seen, if they are to wait for payment after 4 weeks in the domestic currency, they would be susceptible to losses. Hence the clamors by domestic manufacturers to have their invoices serviced in United States dollars.
Now, even some of the formal retailers have been forward pricing in ZiG and leaving the US dollar prices extremely high. How has this contributed to the situation?
Well, of course, that has simply compounded to the situation, or exacerbated, if you may, because the key term here is hedging. Manufacturers are seeking to hedge against market volatility. At the same time, retailers are seeking to hedge against market vagaries at the same time. So it's a game of the currencies, the parallel market vis-a-vis the formal market rates. On the interbank today, the value of the ZiG was at about 1:27, but you juxtapose that to the movements out there on the parallel market, we're looking at rates that hover around 1:35 to the US dollar. So that gap there between the value of the formal market as well as the parallel market has created challenges, especially on the part of retailers in recent weeks. Hence, we have seen the hedging tendencies that are meant to hedge against the price distortions that we're seeing prevalent, especially on the market. But of course, this then boils down to issues of the growth where the broad money aggregates are concerned. Wherever it is that there is unsustained growth where broad money aggregates are concerned, this tends to have a run where the value of the domestic currency is concerned, and of course the inflation that is a result of that. So there are calls to have a floated exchange rate by certain quarters of the business, and also for us to have a prolonged usage of the multi-currency regime at least till 2030, as opposed to the 2026 deadline that was indicated from the highest office in the land.
Konapo ipapo ba ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.